This is Professor Michael Chapman. I'm one of the most experienced IVF doctors in Australia. I believe that an important part that I can contribute is to educate patients in relation to fertility, infertility, and all that involves. These series of podcasts help to educate you. I hope they are helpful to you. If you wish to know more, however, I'm more than happy to have you contact me via email, which is profmchapman@gmail.com, or make an appointment to see me on 9138 4222. In Australia now, something like 95% of cycles are what we call a short cycle. We call it short because in the past we used the long cycle, which started in the treatment in the cycle before the actual egg collection cycle. So the short cycle, which I'll talk about, is the one that most people use today. And in that situation, what we are doing is on the first day of a period, we start to stimulate the ovaries. And that means injections. And those injections are going to proceed on a daily basis, producing hopefully multiple eggs within the ovary. A standard short cycle. You start with injections, FSH injections, to stimulate follicle growth in the ovary, to override a mechanism that we still don't understand, where in a normal menstrual cycle only one egg is produced and lots of them die away. And what we're doing by using the injections is to stimulate multiple follicle growth, basically saving many of the follicles would otherwise have disappeared that month. And then after about 5 or 6 days of stimulation, what we don't want to happen is for your eggs to be released before we can harvest them. So we start a second injection called an antagonist. And that injection, like the other one, is once a day. So you're ending up with 2 injections by day 5. And over the next 5 days or so, we'll continue to get follicle growth, but we will be comfortable that we're not going to lose the eggs that we're producing. During that time, the clinic will either bring you in for blood tests, sometimes with a scan, to check the progress of those follicles so that we can decide the optimal time to be able to get mature eggs. In general, that's about 11 or 12 days into the treatment cycle. Once that we reach that point where the follicles are a good size, and we call good size over 18 millimeters, and the hormone levels, the estrogen levels, equates to somewhere between 500 and 1,000 units, picomoles per litre, consistent with the other follicles that we're seeing, then it's time to prepare you for the egg collection. Now, the egg collection is done 36 hours after the last injection that you'll have, which is called the trigger injection. Now, the trigger injection will be prescribed by the nurse in the clinic at a particular moment in time. She will have worked out that time based upon when you were going to have the egg collection in the operating theatre. For instance, if we were going to do an egg collection in 2 days' time at 8 a.m. in the morning, then tonight at 8 p.m., 36 hours before that, you would have the final injection, the trigger injection. That timing is pretty important because an hour or so either way can mean that we either lose the eggs from them being released too early, or the eggs may be immature. So that timing is important. All the other injections that you've been taking, generally the clinic says take them at night, which is right, but the time is not actually essential. What that final injection is doing is taking the eggs through their final stage of maturation, which is taking them to be eggs that will be capable of receiving a sperm, and the sperm chromosomes linking up with the egg chromosomes to produce an embryo. So 36 hours later, you'll go into the operating theatre. This may be under local anaesthetic and some light sedation, or it may be a full general anaesthetic. Clinics vary in their approach. So once you're in the operating theatre with whatever sedation has been ordered, the specialist will use a transvaginal ultrasound looking at the screen to guide a needle into each of the follicles. The follicles are the little cysts that hold the eggs. With suction on the end of the needle, the fluid is sucked out. The test tube is handed to the scientist, who then checks whether there's an egg there or not. The total procedure usually only takes 20 minutes or so. As soon as the procedure is finished and the sedation is worn off, then you can head off home. That's the day that the sperm is being produced, and that morning, and then the sperm and the egg are put together that afternoon, and the next morning you'll be called by the scientist to tell you how many of your eggs have fertilized. We then watch them in a laboratory grow from a single cell through to 300 or 400 cells on day 5, called a blastocyst. And it's the blastocyst that we will put back in the uterus, and that we will hope 10 days later we will have a positive pregnancy test. So that's the short protocol, which is the majority of protocols used in Australia today.
And don't forget that you can access all the previous episodes by going to our website www.theivfjourney.com and select IVF Journey podcast from the navigation menu.